I knew it was over the moment she chose the transfer student with the scraped knee over me, burning up with a fever. My childhood sweetheart ignored my sickness to take care of him. I'd beaten Caleb Vance on every test, but I'd lost Chloe Davis to him. Later, Chloe tried to explain, saying she was just worried Caleb couldn't handle it on his own. I smiled and told her it was fine. You can't forgive someone for something you no longer care about. I didn't love her anymore. Much later, Chloe would blow up my phone, desperate to apologize, but it would be for nothing. She'd already left me behind in that pitch-black night. Field day arrived right on schedule, and I was huddled in a corner, wrapped in a heavy jacket, when I saw Chloe walking toward me with a bottle of Gatorade. A wave of heat washed over my skin that had nothing to do with the fever. My throat was dry, but I wanted to force out the words I'd been choking on for a week. I'm sorry. We hadn't spoken a single word since our fight a week ago. To everyone else, Chloe and I were the classic childhood sweethearts, inseparable, and for the most part they were right. From the time I can remember, Chloe was there. From diapers in preschool, through elementary and middle school, and now high school, we had never been apart. Our families were best friends. My parents and hers had been high school classmates, and after college, they both decided to move back to our hometown, ending up as next-door neighbors by sheer coincidence. After Chloe and I were born, our families became even closer. Our parents would laugh and joke about our future wedding, telling us we had to have 2 kids, one for my parents to spoil and one for hers. Whenever the topic came up, Chloe would blush and fall silent, a shy smile playing on her lips. It was that reaction that made me believe, with all the naive certainty of a teenage boy, that Chloe was the one I would marry, the girl who had been by my side for nearly 18 years. That was until Caleb Vance showed up, the transfer student. The argument started, and I felt something fundamental shift between us. That last fight was the catalyst. It had been a full week of silence, of us intentionally leaving for school at different times to avoid each other. Seeing her approach with that Gatorade, I instinctively started to get up, ready to offer the apology she deserved. We'd known each other for 18 years. There was nothing we couldn't talk through. Besides, my body was aching, my head was swimming, and all I wanted was for her to take care of me. If an apology was the price, I was more than willing to pay it. I shrugged off my jacket and pushed myself to my feet. But just as I took a step, Chloe's expression changed. Without a word, she spun around and ran back toward the track. The reunion I'd been imagining evaporated. I followed her gaze and saw a scene that would be burned into my memory forever. My childhood sweetheart, the girl I had loved for as long as I could remember, was kneeling in front of another guy, dabbing at a cut on his knee. Then she took his hand, her face etched with concern, and led him away from the crowded field. A buzz went through the students on the field. I just stood there, frozen, a total outsider amidst the roar of the crowd. I wanted to say something, to scream, but no words came. My eyes stung, and a few hot tears escaped, trailing down my cheeks. Caleb Vance transferred to our school this semester. He was tall, handsome, and despite being new, his grades immediately put him near the top of our class. Within a couple of days, he was friends with practically everyone. His assigned seat was 2 rows behind Chloe and me. Chloe, ever the outgoing and friendly class president, naturally took it upon herself to welcome him. She offered to show him around, help him get settled. I didn't think anything of it at the time. She was class president, and as a member of student council myself, it was my job to help new students adjust. Being guys, Caleb and I had more to talk about. I was surprised to find we had a lot in common. We were both into travel photography, both loved to read. I didn't notice it then, but whenever we talked, he always found a way to steer the conversation toward Chloe. I didn't give it a second thought, casually mentioning all the history we had. After listening, Caleb would just say with a thoughtful look, "Man, you're lucky, Leo, having a girl like Chloe in your corner your whole life." That was the moment he decided he wanted her. It's a shame I realized it so late. Back then, Chloe would tease me, saying I was paying more attention to Caleb than to her. On our walk home, I'd just laugh and say, "You're the girl next door. He's the new kid. Isn't it normal to help him get his bearings? Don't tell me you're jealous." She'd turn her head away with a little huff. "I don't care. If you keep ignoring me, I'm going to get really mad. I'm your childhood sweetheart. You're supposed to hang out with me." Okay, you win," I'd say. "Whatever you want." Back then, there was no doubt in my mind that her heart was with me. So when did that change? I don't know why, but after I started putting some distance between myself and Caleb, Chloe only got closer to him. They were so subtle about it. I didn't even notice when it really started. All I knew was that one day we just stopped walking home together. She'd always have an excuse, something she had to do after school, telling me to go on without her. I didn't question it. I trusted her. I figured she was genuinely busy. Then, she started using Caleb as her excuse. Caleb was struggling with calculus and needed her help. Then Caleb was sick, and she had to check on him. It was when she said she had to take care of a sick Caleb that I finally noticed the shift in my childhood friend. I went from being the one walking beside her to the one watching her from behind. Our classmates seemed to adjust to their rapidly growing closeness without a second thought. I was the only one who felt completely out of sync with the rest of the class, unable to process the change between them. Monday at lunch. It was time for our monthly seating chart change. This time, Caleb walked right up to me and made an outrageous request. "Hey, Leo, man, could I ask you a favor? Do you think we could switch seats? It's kind of hard for me to see the board from back here." I didn't say anything. I didn't agree. My eyes were fixed on Chloe, who was standing right next to him. Her expression was blank. When she saw me looking, she glanced away, unable to meet my gaze. I noticed they were standing closer than before, a proximity that used to be reserved for two people who had known each other for over a decade. It had taken them less than a few months to cross a boundary that had taken us a lifetime. A bitter taste filled my mouth. I swallowed it down and agreed. No one helped me move my desk. I dragged it away from Chloe's side all by myself. The transfer student, Caleb, took my place, and the person helping him move his desk was my former desk mate, Chloe. The look on her face was pure, undisguised joy. She didn't spare a single thought for my feelings. Chloe didn't say a word to me during the whole process. Caleb, apart from his initial request, only muttered a quick thanks. They'd both suddenly become so quiet around me, but I knew them. They were both outgoing, social people who loved talking to their friends. So why, when it came to me, couldn't they spare a single word? During class, my gaze kept drifting back to my old seat. Chloe and Caleb were getting along great. After class, she'd lean over to explain a problem he hadn't understood. The smiles on their faces were so genuine, so warm. For a second, it was like watching the most touching scene from a movie. And in that moment, I realized the distance between us was growing wider and wider. And it was all because of him. The realization sparked a growing resentment for Caleb, and a sharp jealousy over Chloe's actions. I had to get her back. During gym class, Caleb and I ended up on opposing basketball teams. Sports were never my thing. When Chloe and I were little, we were both hyperactive, and our parents decided it would be better if one of us was the calm, stable one. So, at some point, I gave up sports and became quieter. I knew Caleb wasn't great at basketball either. So when we were split up, a competitive fire lit inside me. I wanted to beat him, but the game didn't go how I'd imagined. It wasn't Caleb who lost. It was me. He blew past me with a clean crossover, blocked my shots one after another, and I realized he had been lying. He was good at basketball. He'd just been playing me. In front of everyone, I became the clown who couldn't back up his talk, while Caleb was hailed as his team star player. My teammates didn't say anything, but I could feel their frustration. For the rest of the game, I passed the ball, letting them take the shots. After the game, Caleb walked past me, pretending to be nonchalant, and whispered in my ear, "How's it feel, man? Losing the game and the girl." Rage surged through me. I finally saw his true colors. I threw a punch, hitting him squarely in the chest, trying to vent my fury. Just then, Chloe appeared. She rushed to Caleb's side, her face a mask of anxiety. "Are you okay? Are you hurt anywhere?" she asked him, fussing over him. But when she turned to me, her expression was so dark it sent a chill down my spine. I had only ever seen that look on her face twice before, and both times, it was for me. The first was when I ignored her warnings, tried to show off, and ended up with a bloody knee. She had yelled at me then, purely out of concern. The second was in middle school, when some kids were bullying me. She'd worn that same expression, ready to fight for me. I never thought I'd see her that furious again, ready to go to war for someone. Only this time, it wasn't for me. It was for the guy standing next to her. The roar of field day was still echoing from outside, the noise leaking through the classroom windows. The room was empty. I walked back to my desk and dropped my head onto the cool surface. My body was on fire, my mind hazy. All I wanted was to sleep, to forget about Chloe and Caleb. But then, an annoying voice cut through the quiet. Well, what's this? Did the princess ditch her knight in shining armor? Is the little knight heartbroken?" I realized I wasn't alone. Ravencross was in the classroom too. I didn't have the energy to trade barbs with her. I just stared blankly at the bulletin board at the front of the room. The mural on it had been painted by Chloe and Caleb. Together, they looked so perfect working on it, like they truly belonged with each other. And here I was, hiding in the background, jealous of their happiness, like a clown begging for a scrap of attention. But it was no use. Everything had changed. The truth was, the girl I'd known for over a decade had fallen for a guy who'd been here for a few months. A lifetime of quiet affection couldn't compete with a few months of fireworks. I let out a bitter laugh and let my head fall back onto the desk, drifting off. In the fog of sleep, I felt someone gently lift my head and put something in my mouth. Pills, probably, but I knew with a certainty that ached, that whoever it wasn't Chloe. She would never treat me the way she treated Caleb. I didn't sleep for long. I was woken up by Chloe standing over me. Her eyebrows were knitted together in a frown as she watched me, looking like she wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. My throat felt like sandpaper. I started to get up to buy a bottle of water, but she grabbed my sleeve. "You're burning up. Why didn't you go to the nurse?" I didn't want to talk to her. I decided to use Caleb to end the conversation. "You should go back to the nurse's office and take care of Caleb. I'm fine. You don't need to worry about me." "Stop it, Leo. It's not what you think between me and Caleb. We're just friends. How could I ignore a friend who's hurt? Besides, you have a fever. If you don't get it checked out, it'll only get worse. And Caleb, he was worried about you, too. He asked me to come check on you." "So it was Caleb? You only thought of me because he asked you to?" A cynical smile touched my lips, and the last flicker of hope in my heart died out. One was a two-faced manipulator, the other was heartless. They were a perfect match. Realizing this, I reached into my backpack and pulled out what I'd prepared a while ago. It was a beautifully wrapped, sky blue gift box tied with a pink ribbon. Anyone could see it was a birthday present. Chloe's birthday was coming up. I'd spent a long time planning for it, buying her something I knew she'd love. But with the silent treatment and everything that had happened, I'd almost forgotten. Hearing her talk now brought it all back. I decided to give it to her. I couldn't remember the excitement I felt when I first bought it. Now, all I wanted was to get this burden off my hands. Once this gift was gone, we would have no ties left. Let it all end here. I was so tired. I just needed to rest. I handed the box to her. My voice was low, heavy with finality. "I probably can't make it to your party. Here's your gift. A little early. Hope you don't mind." Holding the gift, Chloe's expression grew complicated. I wondered if she remembered our promise, made when we were kids, that we'd spend every single birthday together. We'd actually kept that ridiculous, playful promise. We'd been there for every one of each other's birthdays. Until this year. This is where the tradition ended. She realized it too. She stepped in front of me, blocking my path, her face frantic. I didn't say a word, just moved her hand out of my way. Her panicked voice followed me. "Leo, we promised. We said that from now on. There is no from now on." I didn't say it out loud. I just gave her a pitying look. She once promised she'd marry me, too, and look where we were now. She was the one who broke our promises. All I was doing was trying to ease her conscience. After setting things straight with Chloe, I felt like a massive weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Even my parents noticed I was smiling more than I had in days. I'm an easy person to please. To put it bluntly, I'm content with a simple life. I'm never going to be a millionaire. Luckily, my parents are pretty laid back. They've saved up a decent nest egg over the years. So even if I accomplished nothing, my future wouldn't be too bleak. As parents, they know their kid best, so they never pushed me too hard about my future. As long as I was happy, that was enough. The one thing I'd done that really made them happy was telling them I wanted to go to an East Coast university after senior year, the same one Chloe wanted to go to. I remember Chloe's parents being thrilled when they heard, saying how we really couldn't be separated. Even for college, the old me would have looked at Chloe with a sweet, knowing smile. The me of today felt nothing but a dull ache when I thought about the past. So, one day after school, I finally sat my parents down and told them I was giving up on the East Coast plan and changing my college applications. After a brief moment of surprise, they accepted it. They had seen the change in me over the past few days. They didn't ask too many questions. But just before I went to bed, my mom came into my room. "Leo," she said softly, "you've never asked us for anything your whole life. The only reason you wanted to go out of state was because Chloe wanted to. If you don't want to go anymore, that's okay. We support your decision. We just want you to be happy. Whatever happens, we'll be here for you. No matter how old you get, Your parents are always your strongest support, your safest harbor. I thought my heart had been hardened by Chloe's betrayal, but hearing my mom's words, a wave of grief washed over me. My mom quietly left, giving me my space. I don't know how long I cried, but I eventually cried myself to sleep. How could you just let go of a relationship that spanned more than a decade? It wasn't that simple. There was always going to be a period of pain. I don't know how long I was asleep before a frantic knocking on my bedroom door woke me up. I checked my phone. Not even 9 o'clock. From the force of the knocking, I had a pretty good idea who it was. My expression soured. When I opened the door, Chloe was standing there, just as I'd expected. My mom was with her, looking at me with concern, then glancing uncertainly at Chloe. It was obvious she'd guessed what was going on, but she left the decision in my hands. Mom, can Chloe and I talk alone for a minute? At the sound of her full name, Chloe's face fell. I'd always just called her Chloe, never her full name. My mom's suspicions were clearly confirmed. The brief exchange got Chloe into my room. She seemed to have forgotten the formality of her name, her eyes fixed on me. My birthday is in 2 days. I'm sorry, I can't make it. I already gave you your present. But happy birthday. I hope you and your friends have a great time. Is that all you have to say? Yes. I shook my head, not wanting to drag this out. I thought my attitude made things perfectly clear, but she just stood by my bed, showing no intention of leaving. This wasn't the first time we'd fought. In the past, I was almost always the one to apologize first. Whenever she was in the wrong, she'd pull this exact move. Just stand there in silence, staring at me. This time, I wasn't going to apologize. I was curious to see how long she could keep up the silent treatment. I just watched her, but as I looked closer, I was surprised to see her eyes were slightly red and puffy, as if she'd been crying. I immediately assumed she and Caleb had gotten into a fight, but I had no desire to dig into why they fought, or why she came to me right after. Caleb and I had a fight, she finally said. We fought because of you, she continued. Why can't you two just get along? Leo, you never used to be like this. Her completely illogical statement was so absurd I almost laughed. It reminded me of the fight that started our week of silence. A fight also caused by one of Caleb's seemingly innocent actions. Chloe was always lively and impulsive, getting into all sorts of trouble since we were kids. Looking back, that rebellious streak was always part of her. Unlike my boring, predictable self, Caleb was just as impulsive and spontaneous as she was. When two people like that get together, it's like a perfect storm. They were like two kites soaring in the sky, flying together, but they both forgot that no matter how high a kite flies, someone is always holding the string. Unchecked freedom eventually leads to disaster. But Chloe didn't seem to get that. So on my birthday last year, when I saw she was planning to go over to Caleb's house late at night, I confronted her. For the first time in a long time, we had a real argument. I asked her if she had any idea what it meant for a guy to invite a girl over to his house in the middle of the night. Her reply is seared into my memory. Every word, every bit of her tone, is carved into my soul. Caleb's not a creep like you, Leo. Don't project your own dirty thoughts onto him. After that fight, she actually apologized to me. First, the reason was simple, and even if she hadn't told me, I could have guessed. What I had warned her about had come true. Caleb was even dirtier than she could have imagined. A few days later, Chloe's birthday arrived, and just as I'd said, I didn't go. It was the first time I'd ever missed her party. As Chloe's new best friend, Caleb was naturally there, right in the middle of the celebration at her house. I saw pictures on a friend's Instagram story. Chloe and Caleb standing close together. The affection in their eyes so obvious it was palpable even through the screen. Maybe our acting had been too good, because Chloe's parents hadn't noticed a thing. They still treated me the same way they always had, stopping by our house, acting like I was their own son. When I used the excuse of being sick to skip the party, Chloe's mom and dad came over together to check on me. Her mom patted my head, just like she used to. I can't believe how big you've gotten, Leo. She had a gift for me. Even though it was Chloe's birthday, they always got me a matching present every year. When you didn't show up at Chloe's party, I knew you must be sick. Your uncle and I wanted to see how you were doing. This is for you. I managed a strained smile. Chloe's father, however, seemed to sense something was wrong. He'd been quiet since they arrived, just looking at me with a complicated expression. We didn't exchange a single word, a kind of silent understanding that can exist between men. As I walked them to the door, her dad sent her mom ahead and spoke to me for the first time. Leo, I've watched you grow up. I know you don't owe anyone anything. He sighed. You're a good kid in every way, but sometimes, you're too selfless. Maybe that's why Chloe. He trailed off, unable to finish, and just sighed again. I knew what he had hoped for me, but you can't force feelings. The fact that Chloe and I had ended up here, you could only call it fate. I didn't say much, but I made a silent promise to myself. I would never let what happened with Chloe affect the kindness her parents had always shown me. After Chloe's birthday party, life settled back into its usual rhythm. Without Chloe, my days became very structured. School, homework, study. My grades started climbing steadily. I was already a good student, but with this newfound focus, I was on track to be in the top 3. The only disruption was that our teacher stopped the monthly seating changes. So Chloe and Caleb remained permanently in the seats directly in front of me. Every time I looked up at the board, I couldn't avoid seeing them. Honestly, after this much time, I'd gotten used to it. As long as they weren't right in my face, it didn't bother me. I thought Chloe had finally gotten the message, but one day after school, they both appeared in front of me, shattering my peace. "Hey, let's walk home together today," Chloe said. "My mom keeps asking why she hasn't seen you lately." If I hadn't seen the defiant look in Caleb's eyes, I might have agreed. I could have played along, pretended for her mom's sake that everything was still the same, and then slowly let her see the truth. But the thought had barely formed before I dismissed it. What's done is done. Why should I have to be the one to bend over backward? So I refused, plain and simple. "No thanks. I'm meeting up with a friend. I don't want to get in your way." Chloe stepped in front of me, grabbing my arm without thinking. But a second later, she remembered, glanced at Caleb, and sheepishly let go. A scornful smile played on her lips, which she pretended not to see. "Don't lie, Leo. You've only ever had one friend your whole life. Me. You've been walking home alone this whole time. How is it that the one day I ask, you suddenly have a new friend?" Before I could respond, Caleb cut in, as if he was afraid I might somehow win her back. His concern was unnecessary. I had given up on that pointless effort long ago. "Leo, I know the way things look between Chloe and me might have given you the wrong impression, but I promise we're just friends. It's not what you think. You're her childhood friend. I've never denied that, and I never wanted to change it. Besides, aren't we friends too? You helped me out so much when I first got here. If I'm the reason you and Chloe are having problems, then I'm willing to step back, so you two can go back to how you were." His words were so fake, so utterly disingenuous. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. My laughter was like a slap across both their faces, shattering the carefully constructed illusion they were trying to sell me. Maybe Chloe's dad was right. Maybe I had been too selfless, which led Chloe to take me for granted, to see me as a fixed, unchangeable part of her life, like a puppy that would come running with a snap of her fingers. So, when I saw the color drain from Chloe's face, I didn't hold back. My voice was cold. "Please, just stop bothering me. Both of you. Whatever happens between you has nothing to do with me." As expected, my words made Chloe furious. This time, Chloe's anger was a raging inferno. It carried an ultimatum. "Apologize or we're done for good." "Apologize," she demanded. "Apologize to me and Caleb right now." I'd never seen her this angry. Her previous fits of temper were nothing compared to this. But I was genuinely confused. What had I said that was wrong? One of them was playing around with other girls. The other had hurt me repeatedly, and now wanted to pretend like nothing happened with a few empty words. If they weren't hypocrites, then who was? Me? "I can't believe you've become this person," she said, her voice shaking with rage. "I've known you my whole life, and for the first time, I see how selfish and fake you are. Maybe I was wrong about you all along. Deep down, you're just a spoiled, entitled rich kid who knows nothing about real life. You're no different from those trust fund babies who waste their parents' money. All these years, our friendship must have blinded me to what you really are." She went on and on, but I didn't hear a word of it. I know who I am. Her little tirade wasn't going to make me doubt myself. Besides, if I was really that kind of person, would her parents have let her hang around me all these years? It was such a simple concept, yet she couldn't grasp it. Why waste any more energy on her? The confrontation ended on a sour note. I ignored her accusations and didn't care how she might retaliate. I went back to my routine. School, home, and on weekends the library to read. But I wasn't expecting to run into someone I knew the next time I went to the library near our school. "Your little childhood sweetheart isn't here, so you don't mind if I sit here, do you?" Ravencross sat down across from me without waiting for an answer, a book written entirely in English in her hand. I couldn't help but chuckle. Everyone in our class knew Raven was dead last in academic rankings. She never paid attention in class, always sleeping with her head on her desk. And now here she was in a library with a book in English. I seriously doubted she could understand a word of it. I ignored her and went back to my reading. But a second later, her voice was buzzing in my ear like a persistent fly. It was obvious she was doing this on purpose, trying to get under my skin. Look, this line is perfect. It's totally you and your little sweetheart. Raven pushed the book toward me. I couldn't avoid seeing the English sentence her finger was pointing to. The meaning was something like that old song lyric. You don't know what you've got till it's gone. The ones who are loved the most are the ones who take it for granted. I was surprised she could actually read it. But the surprise was fleeting. All I wanted was some peace and quiet to read my book. Raven, I don't care why you're here. But right now you need to be quiet. Don't bother me. I lowered my head and tried to focus on my book again, missing the flash of hurt that crossed her face. Come to think of it, Raven and I had known each other for a while, but you couldn't just call us childhood friends. There was a brief, happy period when it was the three of us. Me, Raven, and Chloe. But somewhere along the line, Raven started to rebel, gradually distancing herself from us. The next time I heard her name, it was from my parents, who told me she'd had a massive fight with her dad and trashed their house. TCH, it's just reading, she muttered. Like it's so hard. I dismissed it as a joke and paid her no mind. I had no idea what she would do next. It was during our homeroom teacher's class. Just as the bell rang, Raven suddenly stood up and, in front of the entire class, asked the teacher if she could move her seat to be my desk mate. The announcement sent a ripple of shock through the classroom. I was completely bewildered. I thought Raven must have lost her mind. Why would she want to sit next to me? Had she noticed my grades improving and decided to sit next to me just to distract me? If that was her plan, it was a pretty low blow. I was about to object, but our teacher agreed far more quickly than I could react. Before I knew it, Raven had already gathered her things and was sitting in the empty seat beside me. She tilted her head, a mischievous grin on her face, and greeted me. Her words gave me a strange sense of déjà vu, because they were the exact first words Chloe had ever said to me when we became desk mates in middle school. Looks like I'm your new desk mate. Hope we can get along. Get along? I'd settle for her not causing me any trouble. My worries, it turned out, were mostly unfounded. After becoming my desk mate, Raven didn't try to distract me during class like I had feared. Even when she slept, she was quiet, never fidgeting or making a fuss. The only thing that bothered me was that she wore a different perfume every day. I'm not a fan of strong scents, and the smell wafting over from her desk was a constant distraction. Finally, one day during lunch break, I couldn't take it anymore. I woke her up from her nap. You're a student. You should act like one. Why do you wear all this perfume every day? You're not. To my surprise, she didn't get angry. Instead, she leaned in close, her face just a ruler's length from mine, and blinked her eyes. I'm not what? I sighed, suddenly feeling like I was making a fool of myself. I decided to drop it, but Raven wasn't going to let it go. She propped her chin on her hand and kept poking my arm with her other hand. Come on, tell me, what do you think I am? Is it the perfume? Does it bother you? She grinned. If you don't want me to bug you in class every day, just tell me which days scent you like the best. If you tell me, I'll only wear that one from now on. To keep my grades from suffering, I blurted out a random answer. Yesterday's. Hearing my response, Raven froze for a second. A goofy, uncharacteristic smile spread across her face. Then she turned away and ignored me. Okay, if you liked yesterday's, I'll wear that one from now on. I didn't say anything, trying to ignore her strange behavior. But what surprised me was that, after the lunch break, Raven didn't go back to sleeping at her desk. She sat up straight, watching the blackboard with an excited expression. As much as I didn't want to get involved with her, I had to admit, I was glad to see her making an effort. After our second-to-last class of the day, I was busy with the homework our teacher had assigned. My desk mate, Raven, suddenly decided she was going to finish her homework for the day too. But she just sat there, tapping her pen against her chin, not writing a single word. Ugh, homework is such a pain. I don't know how you can stand it. She nudged me. Desk mate, teach me. Tell me your secret to getting homework done. Maybe because she'd been so well-behaved all day, I didn't mind helping her. I shared a few of my strategies. As our conversation ended, I saw a flash of slyness in her eyes. I had a feeling I'd been tricked, but I didn't dwell on it. When I turned my head, My eyes accidentally met Chloe's from the row in front. I realized I couldn't remember the last time we'd spoken. It was as if she had completely vanished from my life. I coolly looked away and went back to my work, ignoring Chloe and Caleb and whatever was going on between them. In the final stretch before the SATs, a rumor started circulating through the senior class. No one knew where it started, but some people said they saw Chloe helping out at Caleb's family's convenience store, acting like they were already part of the family. Others said they saw her at the hospital visiting Caleb's mom, bringing fruit and gifts. I didn't doubt the rumors. I knew they were true. Caleb's family wasn't well off. Compared to Chloe's, they were on a completely different planet. He had been raised by his single mother, who had recently been in an accident and was hospitalized. In the past, I probably would have been one of the people visiting her. But now, all I felt was relief that I hadn't done something stupid, like using my own family's money to help an outsider. Raven was more worked up about the rumors than I was. So, deskmate, your little childhood flame is in the gossip columns with someone else. How do you feel? I don't feel anything. What she does is her business. It has nothing to do with me. And what about you? I didn't get what she meant at first. My hand, holding my pen, paused mid-sentence. What do you mean? I mean, seeing her move on with someone else? Does it make you want to start dating? I laughed. I could see where this was going. So, a guy like me, good family, top of the class, what kind of girl do you think I should date? Raven puffed out her chest proudly. Well, I think someone who fits that description is right under your nose. I gave her a look that screamed, you've got to be kidding me. I had never realized Raven had such a narcissistic streak. I had no intention of responding to what felt like a joke of a confession. But she kept pestering me during the break between classes, demanding an answer. Come on, tell me, what do you think of me? Not much. My cold reply made her expression visibly deflate, her eyes filling with a wounded look. She slumped back into her self-destructive posture from before. I wasn't blind. I could see she was into me. But right now, I wasn't ready to start a new relationship. Maybe my last one had gone on for too long, leaving too deep an impression. Even though I had no feelings for Chloe anymore, some things just take time to fade. And I didn't want to start a new relationship that felt like a joke while I was still in this state. After the rumors started, I thought Chloe didn't care. But to my surprise, when I got home from school that Friday, she was waiting for me by my front door. I tried to walk around her and go inside, but she blocked my path and started explaining the rumors about her and Caleb. Leo, it's not what you think. Caleb and I aren't together. She rushed on. And that picture that's going around, it was just an accident. The picture she was talking about must have been from her birthday party. I'd seen it before the party even ended. But later, I noticed it was gone from both her and Caleb's Instagrams. I thought it was strange, but now I understood. She must have asked people to take it down. The fact that she was bringing it up now meant something else must have happened. Before I could say anything, she was already explaining. Caleb had too much to drink that night and lost his balance. I just reached out to steady him, and someone snapped a picture right at that moment. I smiled at her, and the tension in her face started to ease. I get it. You don't have to explain anything to me. Besides, I think you two looked really good together in that photo. She started to panic. It's really not what you think. And I only went to the hospital to see his mom because he's my friend. And that night... Enough. I interrupted. You don't have to say any more. I already know. Really? Really? Then, you still remember our plan, right? I knew she was talking about our plan to go to the same university on the East Coast. So I nodded. Caleb and I were never together. We've already talked about it. Even after we go to college, we'll just be friends. She took a breath. I'm still going to go to school with you. We'll go to the same university. And then what? I cut her off with a smile. It was only then that she noticed my smile wasn't genuine. A nervous look crossed her face, as if she was afraid I was about to back out. After we go to the same university, I'll get to watch you make a new friend, just like Caleb, and do this all over again. I do remember our plan, I said. But I'm the one breaking it now. I'm not going to the East Coast. Why? There is no why. Or, if you need a reason, it's because you were the one who broke our promise first. She wanted to ask more, but I didn't give her the chance. I knew what she wanted to ask about, but that was all in the past. The childish things you say when you're a kid, like, I'm going to marry you. How could you take them seriously? Only a fool like me would hold on to a playful joke like it was a lifelong pact. My detachment from Chloe was simple and direct. I thought she would have noticed it by now, but it seemed she was only just realizing that my feelings for her had changed. The day after our conversation at my house, I went to school as usual and sat down at my desk. Chloe, however, didn't walk into class with Caleb like she normally did. Our classmates were still teasing them, the new couple, since they were easily the best-looking pair in our grade. But to everyone's surprise, Chloe flatly denied the rumors that she and Caleb were dating. Even more surprisingly, after her denial, she walked straight over to my desk with a fawning expression. I didn't say anything, but Raven's reaction was much more pronounced. What's this about? You act like a couple, everyone knows you're a couple, and now you're saying you're not? If that's not a boyfriend and girlfriend, what is? Yeah, I didn't get it either. If you couldn't call what Chloe and Caleb had a relationship, what else was there? Best friends? Soulmates? Raven was indignant on my behalf, and for once, I didn't stop her. Who would be stupid enough to alienate a new friend for someone who was already gone? You stick by your friends, right or wrong, and Chloe didn't have a leg to stand on in this case. At lunch, Raven and I sat together, or rather, she forced her way into the seat across from me. I was too tired to argue, telling myself it was nice to have some company. So, I was in the bathroom this morning, she said, and I heard some people teasing Chloe about Caleb, and she totally lost it. What's there to get mad about? If she was so worried about her reputation, why was she visiting his mom in the hospital? That's basically a public announcement that they're together. I looked up at Raven, exasperated. Is the food not to your liking? Nope, the cafeteria food is pretty good. I'm not a picky eater. I'm easy to take care of. Whoever marries me is going to be one lucky guy. Then why can't all this good food shut your mouth? You? Seeing Raven speechless for once, my appetite improved. She started shoveling food into her mouth, muttering under her breath. Don't say I didn't warn you. Blind as a bat. Can't see what's right in front of him. Our lunch was interrupted by a commotion on the second floor of the cafeteria. A few guys in street clothes were striding purposefully toward a table, the one where Chloe and Caleb always sat. They clearly weren't students from our school. No one would dare violate the dress code. I nudged Raven. She was still sulking and didn't want to respond. What? I pointed toward the corner. Raven's face immediately lit up with a gossipy grin. Just as I expected, the show began. The outsiders grabbed Caleb and dragged him out of his seat. The leader slapped him twice across the face. Chloe tried to intervene, but she was no match for them. So you have a girlfriend and you're still hitting on mine? The leader sneered, then shot a disdainful look at Chloe. I don't know what a girl like you sees in this guy. You must not be any better if you fell for this loser. He spat on the ground. Trash. Across the crowded cafeteria, Chloe's eyes met mine, but I didn't move. I had no reason to help Chloe and Caleb. The incident blew up. The entire grade was buzzing with the news that Caleb was a player, messing around with girls from other schools. I didn't have any strong feelings about it. I already knew the truth. I never expected that even by staying out of it, Chloe's drama would still find its way to me. She cornered me while I was chatting with Raven, or more accurately, while Raven was trying to wheedle something out of me. Chloe's face was a tight, angry mask as she glared at us. Your little childhood flame is here to see you, Raven muttered. I told her 1,000,000 times that Chloe and I were done, but she still insisted on calling her that. I had given up on correcting her. Do you need something? I asked Chloe. This afternoon, in the cafeteria. Why didn't you help me? I blinked, genuinely confused. Why would I help you? Raven chimed in from the side. There were dozens of other students on that floor. Why didn't you ask them for help? Chloe bit her lip, clearly not expecting me to be so blunt. We've known each other for so many years. And Caleb is your friend, too, isn't he? I laughed. So, by your logic, no matter what Caleb does, I should have his back? Even if it means being condemned and ostracized by everyone. Caleb explained everything to me. Nothing happened between him and that girl. It was all her fault. Raven piped up, a puzzled look on her face. Oh, really? Then why didn't Caleb explain that to them this afternoon, instead of just taking those slaps? Does he have some kind of weird kink? I couldn't help it. I burst out laughing. I nudged Raven, telling her to tone it down. Raven, probably deciding it was pointless to argue with someone as illogical as Chloe, dropped it after her initial defense of me. She went back to grabbing my arm, picking up our previous conversation. We were lost in our own world, and neither of us noticed when Chloe left. The thing Raven wanted was simple yet complicated. She wanted me to come to her birthday party. I didn't know how to agree. Her family was throwing a big bash, which meant they would be inviting business partners. Chloe's parents would definitely be there, and the fragile peace I'd been maintaining would be shattered. Besides, I felt like showing up as just her desk mate was a flimsy excuse. Seeing my hesitation, Raven finally relented with a different suggestion. Fine, if you won't come to my house, then we'll go out. Just you and me. How about that? I don't know if it was intentional or not, but the place she chose for her birthday dinner was a small barbecue joint me and Chloe used to go to all the time. I was surprised that a rich girl like her would enjoy a place like this. But over the past few weeks, I'd learned that Raven wasn't the spoiled brat everyone thought she was. Hey, we'll take 30 lamb skewers, 5 kidneys, and 2 beers. Raven ordered for us without asking. Since it was her birthday, I didn't object to the beers. The place wasn't far from school, and students sometimes came here to eat. I was prepared to run into someone we knew. I just never expected that someone to be Chloe and Caleb. They seemed just as surprised to see us as we were to see them. For whatever reason, they decided to stay and eat there anyway. It was clear that Raven and Chloe couldn't stand each other. The moment Chloe sat down, Raven started whispering in my ear. I really don't get people like her. It's so obvious they're together. But she still denies it. Such a hypocrite. She sighed dramatically. Not like me. Whoever ends up with me is going to be so lucky. I'm the total package. What do you think? If someone sees us eating here together, will there be rumors about us at school tomorrow? I've never had a boyfriend before. If I get tangled up in some scandal with you, my reputation will be ruined. Just as she said the last line, I had a mouthful of beer I hadn't swallowed yet. I couldn't hold it in and accidentally sprayed it across the table, right onto Raven. It wasn't a lot, just a few drops, but it was enough. For a second, Raven didn't react. Then, her face darkened. I could literally see the murderous intent in her eyes. Before I could apologize, she shot up from her seat, came around to my side, and wrapped my head in a gentle headlock, giving me a few playful noogies. All right, Leo Miller, is this how you celebrate my birthday? No one has ever dared to spit beer on me in my entire life. You, sir, are in big trouble. Sorry. I swear I didn't mean to. It was your fault for making me laugh. How could I help it? Still making excuses? This is clearly your fault. Okay, you're right. My fault. So, how are you going to make it up to me? Make it up to you? She let me go, her eyes fixed on mine. I saw the faint smile playing on her lips and the hidden emotion in her eyes. Maybe my luck had run out the moment I saw Chloe and Caleb. Before I could answer Raven, a loud crash from across the restaurant drew both our attentions. It was the same guys who had hassled Caleb at school, and this time they had a few girls with them. Maybe it was because it was the first time she'd seen a real fight involving people she knew. But Raven looked excited, completely oblivious to how dangerous the situation was. When I saw one of them smash a beer bottle over Caleb's head and a couple of the girls grab Chloe by the hair, my first instinct was to grab Raven and get out of there. I saw another customer on the phone, probably calling the police, so I wasn't about to play hero. It would only get Raven hurt. But I never expected that. For the second time that day, my eyes would meet Chloe's across a crowded room. Leo! She screamed, surrounded by the girls pulling her hair. Her voice was filled with panic, just like when we were kids and she'd gotten into trouble. But this time, she wasn't screaming for herself. She was trying to drag me down with her for someone else. Help Caleb. Before I could even react, Raven grabbed my arm and started pulling me toward the exit. As the guys started coming toward us, she stepped in front of me and yelled, "We're not with them. If you don't want to go to jail, you better back off. The cops are on their way." These thugs weren't about to be scared off by a few words from a high school girl. Fueled by adrenaline, one of the girls swung a beer bottle at her, ready to teach her a lesson. In a split second of panic, I pulled Raven back, wrapping her in my arms and turning my back to the attack. The bottle shattered against my head. I felt warm, sticky blood start to trickle down my neck. I never would have guessed a perfectly good birthday party would end like this. The police eventually arrived and arrested the attackers. Our parents were called to the scene. When my mom and dad saw that I was hurt, they rushed over, hugging me tightly. Raven couldn't stop apologizing to them. It's my fault. I should have gotten Leo out of there sooner. It's because of me that he got hurt. Please, if you're going to blame someone, blame me. I didn't blame Raven. From the moment she stepped in front of me to protect me, something inside me had shifted. My mom, still not knowing the full story, heard Raven's words and assumed it was her fault. But before she could say anything, I explained what really happened. It has nothing to do with Raven. It was Chloe and Caleb's drama. Hearing that, my parents seemed to understand. They gave Chloe a long, meaningful look. Meanwhile, Raven, who was physically fine, suddenly burst into tears. Her eyes were red as she looked at me, sniffling between sobs. I wasn't sure why she was crying, but my hand reached out and took hers without me even thinking about it. The answer was clear. Some things don't need to be said. Leo. As the root cause of the whole mess, Chloe was brought over by her parents to apologize to me. They knew I had gotten hurt because of Chloe's desperate plea for help, but they didn't seem to hold my initial inaction against me. Seeing the complicated look in her mom's eyes, I knew the illusion I had tried so hard to maintain was shattered. She knew things between Chloe and me had changed. You and Raven. You too. But Chloe's mom's next words made me realize it wasn't just that. She had seen me holding Raven's hand. Do you need something? I asked Chloe, my tone flat. Now that both our parents knew, there was no point in pretending anymore. I'm sorry, she said, her voice trembling. I really didn't mean for this to happen. I just wanted you to help Caleb. I never thought you'd get hurt. I took a deep breath, my patience wearing thin. You don't have to explain. What's done is done. It may not have been your fault directly, but this whole thing started because of Caleb. If he hadn't gotten himself into trouble, those guys never would have come after him. You know that better than anyone. I continued. You chose to stand by him. Getting hurt was a risk you took. You should probably go to the hospital and get yourself checked out. Chloe's face grew even paler. Even with her parents standing right there, she didn't care. She rushed to explain. Nothing happened between me and Caleb. That night, he didn't do anything. He just hugged me. I never liked him. The one I like is... That's enough. I looked at Chloe, then at her parents, whose faces had turned to stone at her confession. I don't want to repeat myself, Chloe. We're done. This is where it ends. I don't want to go any further, and I don't want to go back. This was your choice. I turned to her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Davis. My girlfriend still has a birthday to celebrate. We're going to head out. They managed strained smiles, unable to say a word. I took Raven's hand and led her out of the restaurant, and I didn't look back. For so long, I thought Chloe and I were meant to be, that nothing could ever tear us apart. But I don't know when that feeling started to fade, until it was gone completely. I used to love Chloe so much, but after she hurt me again and again, that love died. And now, I realized I couldn't ignore the girl by my side anymore. The one who always made me laugh, who would stand in front of me in the face of danger, the one whose eyes were always on me. Raven was even smarter than I gave her credit for. I knew it from our first real conversation in the library. So I wasn't surprised when she scored over a 1400 on her SATs. See? I told you I was smart. I barely even tried and got a great score, she boasted. If I wasn't worried about you being all lonely at college by yourself, I would have just skipped this whole thing and gone to study abroad. I laughed and gently pinched her nose. You were worried about me being lonely? Please. I was worried you'd starve to death in some dorm room without me. You'd be the lonely one. So, the SATs are over. What are your plans for the summer? She asked, her eyes full of anticipation. I repeated what my parents had told me the night before. My mom and dad want you to come over for dinner. The normally fearless Raven blushed scarlet. To your house? Isn't it a little too soon for that? I flicked her on the forehead. Get your mind out of the gutter. My parents just finalized a business deal with your family, and they want to have a celebratory dinner. Even if you wanted to marry me, I haven't decided if I'm ready to be tied down yet. It was true. After the incident at the restaurant, Raven and I had naturally become a couple. We never really talked about that night. We were both just happy with how things were. Our relationship was still a lot like when we were just desk mates. Full of playful arguments and teasing. I loved it, because in every little thing she did, I could feel her deep affection for me. It was a feeling I had never gotten from Chloe. I hadn't spoken to Chloe since that night. I assumed our paths would never cross again. But when I brought Raven home for dinner, I found an uninvited guest waiting in our living room. Chloe. Raven went upstairs to my room. My parents made an excuse to go out, leaving me and Chloe alone in the living room. Seeing her again, I felt a strange sense of nostalgia. After that night, Chloe and Caleb had completely cut ties. I didn't know the details, but I never saw them speak to each other in class again. The relationship between our families had also, inevitably, become distant. Leo, Chloe said, standing awkwardly in front of me, not getting to the point. My relationship with Raven was pretty low-key. No one at school knew, they all thought we were still just desk mates. That was probably why Chloe was here. The SATs are over, she said. We can go to the East Coast together now. I've completely cut Caleb out of my life. He'll never bother you again. I know I made a lot of mistakes, but I never liked him. And I remember what I told you when we were kids. I said I was going to marry you, be your bride. She fumbled with her phone. I know you hate Caleb. I can delete and block him right now. Can we please just go back to how things were? We've known each other for more than a decade. I can't imagine my life without you. She looked up, her eyes pleading. I love you, Leo. Will you be with me? I smiled, a sudden sting in my eyes. Hearing her words, my mind flashed back to that day in the library with Raven, and the line she had shown me in that book. The ones who are loved the most are the ones who take it for granted. Raven and Chloe were the two halves of that sentence. For so long, I had been so sure of myself, only to have reality slap me across the face. And now, just as I had let everything go and started over, Chloe had come to her senses and wanted to rekindle what we had. I laughed. I laughed because the price of Chloe's personal growth was our relationship. I laughed because our decade-long bond couldn't stand up to a few months of a newcomer. I laughed because just as Raven and I had opened our hearts to each other, she was trying to drag me back into the past. Looking at Chloe, standing there, waiting anxiously, I subtly waved my hand, signaling to Raven, who I knew was hiding and eavesdropping on the stairs. She came down, looking uncharacteristically nervous. I took her hand without a word, intertwining our fingers right in front of Chloe. I put on what I hoped was a happy smile. Thank you for saying that. It proves that the last decade of my life wasn't a complete waste. I squeezed Raven's hand. Let me introduce you. This is Raven, my girlfriend. Chloe stood frozen, tears welling up in her eyes and spilling down her cheeks. Raven, just as she had the day she became my deskmate, introduced herself to Chloe. I'm Leo's girlfriend. I know you two go way back, but I'm not the jealous type. So, from now on, it's nice to meet you. At the post-graduation party, Raven and I showed up as a couple. Chloe and Caleb were both there too. The distance between them was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Some people, still out of the loop, tried to joke about it. Caleb's eyes were still fixed on Chloe, a hopeful look on his face. He clearly hadn't given up. I held Raven's hand, the two of us feeling like outsiders just enjoying one last high school party. After all, these people had, in a way, witnessed the start of our relationship, even if they didn't know the story. Raven and I left early. She told me later that after we left, Caleb had tried to use our relationship to get to Chloe, telling her that even if Raven and I broke up, I would never go back to her. He was trying to win her back, apparently having cleaned up his act and cut off all the other girls. Chloe's response shocked everyone. She calmly poured her entire beer over Caleb's head, then slapped him hard across the face. The party broke up pretty quickly after that. Hearing the story now, years later, I looked at Raven with amusement. It's been so long. Why are you telling me this now? You really held on to that for a while. Humph. Raven patted her swelling belly and shot me a glare. Who knows if someone is still secretly pining for his childhood sweetheart after all these years. Isn't that right, my darling son? I looked at the wedding ring on Raven's finger, and at the baby bump that held our child, and a happy, helpless smile spread across my face. You're about to be a mom, and you're still acting like this. I sighed. Besides, you know I haven't had feelings for Chloe in years. You never know, she teased. First loves are supposed to be powerful, right? What if you suddenly decide to leave us for her? What would I do then? I wrapped my arms around her, pulling her close. You're impossible. She was just the girl next door. Besides, we've been over for a long time. My real first love, the one that matters. That's you.